nutritional panel to see what supplements I was deficient in. It was 2 hands full of supplements.
It was explained to me that if you get your body alkaline, cancer can't live in it, and that's what it's all about. And then she gave me supplements to get my body alkaline.
Referred me to hospice. But we said no thank you.
I'm a radical remission survivor of stage 4 melanoma,
breast pancreatic cancer,
ovarian cancer,
chronic lymphocytic leukemia,
chronic fatigue syndrome,
ALS, non-small cell lung cancer, survivor of multiple myeloma cancer.
I was born in Queens, New York. I'm the oldest of 3 children, and I was the boss of the family. I bossed them around a lot. My mother asked me to babysit for them from the age of like 9, and I think that really formed my personality in a big way. I always had stomach and digestive problems. Colicky baby, hours in the bathroom, always going immediately after meals. It was not great. I believe in my heart that it's one of the key reasons that I got breast cancer, because I was toxic.
I was born in Chicago, born and raised in Chicago. My mother and father made sure we grew up in church. I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I went to college. I studied photography. I liked photography, taking pictures. I became a baby photographer. So I got pretty good at that. And then I got into the sales industry from there on.
I'm a CMM operator, as a coordinate measurement machine operator. We measure make all kinds of steel and titanium parts, and CMM, we measure them to see if they meet qualifications and standards. I've been retired now twice, and I'm still working.
I started going to Hunter College at night. And that was actually the year that I met my husband, but he was already married to someone else, so that didn't work out. But years later, Steve got in touch with me, my husband, and he said, I'm divorced, we should try it again. I was like, I don't think so. That sounds like it's too long, it's too late, it's long ago. However, I wanted to go back to New York, so I said, okay, I'll come out for a test weekend, see how it goes. And it went well. So I moved in with him, and I never moved out. Within a few weeks, we were back, really, really, really in love.
Well, I'm madly in love with my wife. I've been in love with her for 51 years. We've been living together and married for 36 years. Her inner strength and her positive attitude and her discipline, everything. She's the love of my life. Like I said, I love her every minute of every second of every day.
I met Debbie at work. We were selling resorts for a vacation company. I was promoted to work at a resort in the island of St. Martin. And I invited her down to St. Martin to work with me there. We got engaged on the island of St. Martin, and it's all history from there.
I love that he's compassionate, he's caring, he's nurturing, he's loving, just an all-around wonderful person. And I'm just grateful to even have him, as he's a blessing to me to be in my life.
I was 41 maybe. I started to get dizzy feeling. I didn't realize what it was, but it would happen when I passed like window cleaners in Manhattan. They do big windows and they were spritzing chemicals. And I would pass by and just feel really unhappy, really dizzy, kind of get a headache that might last for 5 hours. And the headaches got worse and the dizziness got worse. And sometimes I would be rashed up and I had a yeast infection. It was terrible. It was terrible. It was ruining my life because it got to the point where I couldn't read a book because the print was rising to make me sick. Eventually, it suddenly occurred to me, this is related. But there was nobody saying chemical sensitivity. It wasn't a real thing.
I have a son that has had brain cancer. And he's still suffering with a lot of stuff. because of what he had to go through. And I worked there for 7.5 and retired for a couple of years. And then I went back because we needed money, and then I got cancer.
"1993 comes along, January, actually December of, I'm going, wait, there's a callus here. What's that? Left breast, 2 o'clock. And I go to Franny, my acupuncturist, and she says, why don't you talk to your doctor about that? So I guess I probably went to get a mammogram at the place that I always went, and they went crazy. This is a Thursday. And he said, his nurse comes in and she says, "Oh, we have surgery scheduled for Monday. Your insurance company agreed." I thought, wow, I must be really, really sick because surgery usually takes a while. Thursday, Friday. So Friday I went to work. Saturday, I lay in bed with Steve saying, "Don't worry, honey, everything will be fine." Thinking in my head, it's my last Saturday. I'm only 44 years old. I thought I was going to die.
I was healthy, very active, worked out. And then I found I had hepatitis C, but I lived with that with absolutely no symptoms whatsoever. So I was treated for it, but it didn't work. I had a routine checkup, and I had a colonoscopy, my first colonoscopy, and my first MRI, and found a little tumor on my liver. So I was diagnosed with liver cancer.
I had pain on my left side. It was hurting a lot. And I kept telling my wife I had an issue there, or something wrong. So she got me to the doctor, and they told me I had pancreatitis. And they gave me some pills and sent me home. I kept taking the pills and everything, and was feeling pretty good. I was still working. And she caught me bent over the bed again a little bit later, 2 or 3 weeks later, and she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "The pills aren't working. I'm still having a lot of pain." So she took me back to the doctor again. They ran every test they could.
There was no biopsy prior to the surgery. I was taken to surgery, but the samples were sent to the pathology, and it came back as invasive lobular breast cancer. When I woke up, the surgeon said, "Oh, good news, 18 are negative. All your nodes are negative." And I said, I don't know what you mean. And that's when I discovered that he forgot to tell me that they remove axillary lymph nodes. And they had taken 18 in a random way. They just take a grab. And I was just, in conversation, I discovered that they take them because they want to figure out what kind of chemotherapy to give you. This was 1993, so they had 2 different kinds. And I said to him, "Well, that's super weird on account of I really not sure that I'm going to do chemotherapy, chemical sensitivity."
This was in 2012. It was stage 1 or 2 because, like I said, I was still healthy. I couldn't believe it.
So they finally sent me to Providence Hospital. This is Kaiser. They sent me to Providence, and they ran a test at Providence that apparently they can't run at Kaiser. And it's where they run a scope down you and do the ultrasound at the same time. When they did that, lo and behold, they found a tumor at the head of my pancreas. I thought they just would cut that little slice there and you'd know what it is. No, it's when you have to go through the 8 hours of surgery to find out what it is. They did the Whipple, and they found out I had pancreatic cancer.
After being healthy all my life, I just couldn't imagine how sick I was.
And I really didn't want to think that he wouldn't be here. But I didn't want to spend any time away from him either. So it was hard to do regular things like go to work if you're not sure that you're going to be able to see the person still that you love. I just wanted to be with them all the time.
I was told that I had 12 months to live, 18 if I took chemo. As I remember calling my wife from the hospital and said, "I got a year to live," because that's what they told me, 12 months. Well, I watched my dad die in 6 months of pancreatic cancer. I knew that's what was going to happen. I was going to die. I guess I was more or less accepted it because I had seen it.
It was, it was horrendous. I mean, it was extremely difficult. I cried. I prayed to God, and I don't know if I believe in God. it's a scary thing. It brings on a dread like I've never felt before.
When I had the 18 lymph nodes removed without my express or informed consent, which is a really big thing, it damaged my lymph system forever, not healed. He asked me at the end of the original consult, "Do you have any questions?" And I was like, what did I ask him? I didn't know anything. No internet, you know. And plus, I thought he told me everything, but he failed to tell me very, very important stuff.
As I remember calling my wife from the hospital and said, I got a year to live. And when she said, we'll see about that, whether you're going to die in 12 months or not, she has a good attitude.
I knew that I couldn't do the mainstream stuff. I couldn't. It was wrong for me in every possible way. I mean, first of all, she said, the field is here, which was my heart, my left lung. I come from a family of heart disease. What? Plus, I also started doing research by then, and I was reading that there are long-term adverse effects from radiation. And I'm not a fan.
It was doctors saying if you don't have chemo and you don't have radiation, you're going to die. And my beautiful wife, without a lot of knowledge at the time, said, no, I don't think I can do the chemo, and I don't want to do the radiation. So it was the worst time in my life for a number of years, because she was really vulnerable.
They recommended that I get on a transplant program because they said, no problem. A lot of people, go through this. They get a transplant, you get a transplant, you'll be fine. You can live your life. But it wasn't long after that. They treated me with a chemo medication of Nexavar, but it was way too strong for me. My body couldn't take it. Got bad side effects of my legs were burning in between my legs, my feet. So they took me off of that medication.
I had a lumpectomy, and then 18 months later, I'm feeling around here and going, wow, I still have my breast. Wow, I felt a lump. It was very, very small. It was October 1994, and I went to my surgeon. I now had a new surgeon, a woman, and I said, something's here. So I had a biopsy, and what do you know? Not only was that the exact same breast cancer I had before in the same spot, but underneath it was that was 0.6 on the top. 0.6. It was really small.
It was a very, very difficult battle with cancer. It was a lumpectomy. Then the cancer came back again. Then there were recurrences.
Nobody likes recurrences. I didn't want to have a mastectomy, but I really felt at that point, what's the point? There's nothing left. It's been chopped and diced here. So the next month I did a mastectomy, left side. And then in 1997, I got these little tumors on the chest wall. And, the thing about a mastectomy, breast tissue looks like tissue. So when you have surgery, they can't guarantee that it's all gone. And I had big breasts, and there was whatever tissue I had invasive lobular, which was all over the place. So now I have these lumps, and I speak to a doctor, surgeon, and now they tell me, oh, you're stage 4.
The surgery was the painful thing for me, and the Whipple procedure. The Whipple procedure, it's 8 hours of surgery, so it wasn't fun. The fellow at work that had it after me, he was up and out of there in 2 weeks. I was in the hospital quite a while with that surgery, and it was not easy for me. They made a lot of mistakes. I had great pain. I wanted to die when I was in there. I remember that. It was not good.
Within months, they said that my tumor was growing and a transplant wouldn't help me. They said, even if you got a transplant, your body wouldn't take it. You'll just waste a liver. So they had to take me off of the transplant program. Well, due to some of the treatment, it really spread to my kidneys. I had kidney disease. To my heart, I had heart disease. I had ascites, where I had to get my stomach drained. It was really going downhill, pretty bad shape. When my kidneys started failing, I went to a hospital close to my house, and they said either I start dialysis or I go to hospice.
The other hospitals, wanted us to sign up for hospice, and they didn't really see any chance of survival.
We had a meeting. We had a scheduled meeting and with a representative from hospice. So, yeah, that was pretty scary.
For me, I went to see an oncologist because that's what you do. And I walked in and the oncologist said, "Oh, we're going to start chemo next week." And I said, "Doc, I have a problem." And he said, "Oh, it doesn't matter." I think, whoa, I think I might be leaving really soon. So I said to him, "Can I just tell you what it is before you dismiss it?" So I say, "Chemically sensitive, I react to this, that, and the other thing." And he says, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Same tone, same everything." So I said to myself, this man does not see me, and he's not going to treat me because I'm not going to anyone who can't see Ann Fonfa standing in front of them. And I developed this theory. I am not the patient in room 7. I'm Ann Fonfa. I'm an individual. I want to be treated for me. And I said, "I'm sure there's an alternative." And then he said, "Oh, wait," it was like a bell rang. And I said, "No, alternative. I'm going to do that, alternative medicine," whatever that is. I mean, I didn't even consider acupuncture alternative because my good friend was giving it to me. It wasn't alternative, it was Franny. Super weird. So I didn't know anything, really, literally nothing. But I knew that I couldn't do the mainstream stuff. I couldn't. It was wrong for me.
If it weren't for my wife, I would have accepted it and I would have been gone. But she would not accept it. She took me, said I had to go see Dr. Rafferty, which is a naturopath that we use. And the naturopath told me that she had just seen 2 doctors at a convention she went to from New York that had great success with pancreatic cancer. My wife was sold right then and there that she was going to, she said, "Where's the doctor at? What's her name?" And so she got her name and we went home from there. My wife was on the phone immediately and called Dr. Isaac's office. Wanted to know if they would see me. And Dr. Isaac said, "Glad to see him, but he's got to be able to swallow 200 pills a day." My wife said, "Well," she asked me if I could swallow 199 pills a day. And I said, "I don't know, but I will certainly give it my best shot." She says, "I'm not going to take you to New York unless you can do this program. So I only got $5,000 left of our pension. And I'm not going to spend it on you, and then you not do the program and die, and I'm broke." And I understood that, so I told her I would do the program. She took her last money and hauled me to New York.
They referred me to hospice. But we said no, thank you.
That was like, for me, I thought with whatever time frame they gave us, in my mind, that was how much time we had to figure out what's the next step. Where are we going to go now so that we can move forward with beating this? We're not going to go to hospice. We're going to go to wherever we can. If it's in this state, another country, wherever, whoever can help us.
And we sent our medical records to different cancer treatment centers, but they looked at our records and said nothing they could do for us until she found the Block Center.
And we came here and we met with Dr. Block, and it was like an inner peace.
And the Block Center said, "Come on in, we'll work with you."
Well, what I've learned from radical remission survivors is that everyone's taking different supplements. So in these big studies where they put everyone on the same multivitamin or they give everyone the same dosage of vitamin D, that's not what radical remission survivors do, not by a long shot. They work with their functional medicine doctor or their traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, whatever it may be, someone who's trained and who can assess what their body needs at that moment. And guess what? It will change in 3 months. And that's what we see with radical remission survivors. All of them are taking different supplements according to their body's particular needs at that particular time.
There's nobody in the medical community that can deny that cannabis has a really profound effect on the quality of life for cancer patients. There's nothing that Western medicine has that can compete with nausea associated with cancer or chemotherapy. One of the aspects of cannabis that is largely overlooked is that the enzymes that break down the molecules in our brain known as endocannabinoids are the same enzymes that are involved in some of our inflammatory pathways. There's a lot of studies, there's a lot of cell line studies, a lot of animal studies that show that cannabis does have anti-proliferative effects, anti-cancer effects.
I'm a radical remission survivor of stage 4 colon cancer. I had my first mistletoe injection, and I believed helped to turn the trajectory of my life. we started talking about developing this trial. Fast forward to today, it's ongoing at Johns Hopkins right now. And I think about 20 patients have already been enrolled, and they're in their fourth cohort in the series of this IV mistletoe trial. So it's really exciting.
I'm fairly sure that I wasn't taking anything prior to diagnosis of supplements, but I immediately began using powder vitamin C, which I continue to this day to add to my water. I began having resveratrol. I read some articles that it would be helpful for breast cancer and specifically, and also might be helpful for the heart. I started taking CoQ10. I started taking green tea. All these things I conveyed to people. And every time I found supplements that seemed of interest, I would try them. I mean, for example, modified citrus pectin. I was reading this article says they may kill metastatic cancer cells. Natural medicine works not because I'm special, but it works. And I have been able to find over the years a lot of things that really made a difference for me.
When we think about supplements, natural products, they need to be considered just like drugs. And do drugs play a role in cancer? Absolutely. Do drugs play a role in increasing our longevity today, longer than in the history of Homo sapiens on the planet? Absolutely. I don't see them any differently.
We use supplements very extensively based on the patient's individual condition and diagnosis. Herbs and supplements are a very important part of our protocol. Also, infusional high-dose vitamin C, DMSO. These are an important part of our treatment also.
A radical remission is a statistically unlikely remission. It could mean someone who overcomes a very dire prognosis, combining both conventional and alternative methods at the same time. And what I mean by dire is anything with a less than 25% 5-year survival rate.
When I was at the hospital, they made me feel more like I was a disease. I felt like I was cancer now. I got here, I felt like a patient, more like still a person.
Reggie came in the door with a cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, after many years of hepatitis C. And that prognosis, the 5-year survival is less than 2%. I looked at him and said he needed to be rebuilt from the ground up. And that's what we did. We intervened with a very careful nutrition regimen, cautious fitness regimen to rebuild muscle. We worked on his circadian health. We worked on his biobehavioral status.
Oh, they did a nutritional panel to see what supplements I was deficient in.
So each of these different tests that we do are really helping give us an understanding, a kind of a signature. Now, we start off with a foundational program, and then we build on top of that both host biochemistry as well as your microenvironment. But then we also will do a full malignant signature on a patient in order to better understand what's driving their disease. Use of nutritional compounds is that they have the profound ability to multi-target. And so if designed for a regimen carefully, looking at that patient's disease, understanding their malignant signature, as well as the host environment and the microenvironment that the cells reside within, then it's possible to start to change that biology in a more significant way.
It was a hand, like 2 hands full of supplements. That was pretty challenging too, taking all those supplements daily. But, we did what we had to do.
My wife used to tell me I was going to get some horrible disease because I ate so bad. And I wouldn't listen. I always told her, I said, I'm going to eat what I want until I die. And I'm going to enjoy myself. Then when I got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, I said, oh my God, what can I do?
Robert had several episodes of pancreatitis. So he came in to see me, as I recall, in April of 2009. It was around the same time he had a CAT scan, and they were looking at his lungs in this case. I think they wanted to assess where he was at before getting the chemotherapy that he actually wound up refusing anyway. And what they found with the CAT scan was that he had numerous little bitty spots in his lungs. So this would suggest that he might have had pulmonary metastases to the lungs at this point. And so that would change his prognosis from a 9% chance of survival to 5 years to a 0% chance of survival at 5 years.
Dr. Isaac put me on a protocol of eating no meat, eating only organic food. So it's changed my whole life as far as eating. I juice twice a day, and I do 4 coffee enemas a day, and swallowing pig enzymes every 4 hours around the clock.
A big part of the work that we do for cancer patients involves the use of pancreatic enzymes. And the history of the use of pancreatic enzymes goes back more than 100 years at this point to the work of a man named Dr. John Beard. Dr. Beard was an embryologist by training, and he had observed that there was a particular tissue in embryology, which is the very early stages of development, that looks and acts a lot like cancer does. That tissue is called the trophoblast. It's the early stage of the placenta, which is the connection between the mother and the baby. And so Beard speculated that if he could figure out what the signal was that told the trophoblast to mature, he could come up with a solution for cancer. His observation then, looking at a lot of different things that were happening in both the mother and the baby, was that the one thing that changed at that time of the maturation of the trophoblast was that the baby started making pancreatic enzymes. He observed that the baby started making enzymes, the trophoblast changed its character. So based on that, he speculated that pancreatic enzymes could have a role in controlling cancer.
Every 4 hours, I take pills around the clock. I take the 16 are 6 times a day. So that's 96 pills right there. Every day, I take them every 4 hours. I take those 16 pills. The other supplements are after each meal. They're natural supplements like might be vitamin C, it might be B12, vitamin E, lots of different vitamins, natural vitamins that she has prepared specifically for people on this protocol. I don't have a problem taking pills anymore. I used to have to take 1 or 2 pills at a time. Now I can take 15, 20 pills at a time. That's the only way you're going to get a couple hundred pills a day done if you take a bunch at a time. So
I was eating a mostly plant-based diet. Well, I was eating a plant-based diet, fruits and vegetables, eating a lot of organic, and also I did plenty of exercise. From the diagnosis date, I started exercising for an hour every single day. I rode my stationary bike. I had the support group, and that was really, really important. And to discuss things with women was really important. And some of them were very brave, and they said to me, could you show me what you had for lunch? Could I taste the juice you're making? Which I was doing too. And could I walk with you? And all these things, what supplements are you taking? And some of them, extremely brave, began to try it along with treatment. So I often joke that we kind of invented integrative oncology by accident because they wanted to try stuff. No, I wasn't getting sick. I was getting healthier and stronger in general, and they were unfortunately getting sicker. Right after the mastectomy, I went to a clinic in Mexico, and my mother came with me. At the clinic, it was the Gerson program. So I was having the juices, I was doing coffee enemas, and I had started the coffee enemas in February of that year because I knew about them. So I was probably doing 1 a day, and I started juicing. And when I came back, of course, 40 pounds of carrots a week, 40 pounds of apples, Granny Smith apples, everything organic.
We start as a kind of foundation with diet.
Well, it was almost like night and day. No more red meat, no more meat, no more sugar. Lay off the salt. They did lab work. They talked to me about diet. They talked to me about nutrition. They talked to me about exercise. They talked to me about relaxation, meditation.
I don't think there's any surgeon on the planet that wouldn't want a patient that was more physically, nutritionally, emotionally, immunologically fit. So why should that be any different for any other cancer specialist, right? So it's really that type of thinking that is important from my regard for patients in terms of hope.
we were overwhelmed when we first got home and had to put our pills together because we'd never done anything like that, and it was a nightmare. Every 3 months we had to put pills together. Just for the pig enzymes alone, I got to put 540 cups on the table. That's how many pills. And then I got to put 14 enzymes in every one of those cups. And you got to put one, the other is easy putting one magnesium in there, but you got to put the one magnesium, 16 milligram magnesium in there. And that's what you got to fill out. You got a list of pills that got to go in each one of those cups. And you got to fill them, and then you got to put them in baggies. You got to put them away, and you got to take them. I figure it is. I take 6,000 pills every 90 days. It's a lot of pills. 24,000 pills a year. Can get around on top here. I'm turning into a pill.
So if you look at people like Anne or Reggie or Robert, they're taking the supplements that their bodies need, and their practitioners are adjusting them as time goes by. As they heal or as they have perhaps a little bit of a flare-up, those supplements are going to change, and you need to be working with a practitioner who can help you navigate those changes safely. Herbs and supplements are a powerful medicine, but they are plant medicine. So you need to take it seriously. You need to work with a trained healthcare professional who's going to assess and monitor you and make sure it's safe.
So the cells in the breast cancer I had were doubling at a rate of 3.5. I knew women in my group who had 15 or 30, and I had 3.5. So normal cells are known to double at 2.7. So 3.5 was pretty slow. So I slowed that by my lifestyle, by the supplements I was taking, by the things I was doing. I made that happen. I slowed it more than normal cells. I mean, to me, that was a victory, even though no doctor would give me that. But I knew that was fabulous. I knew that. It had to matter. I mean, slow growing is not life-threatening, period. So, but then I developed another tumor. Like, what? And then I got 2 more tumors. And I just kept having tumors over and over and over. I had 14 more tumors on the chest wall. So that really made me worried. Like, what am I going to do?
The Nexavar started, I think within a month or so, after the labs and everything. My skin was burning again, and it was just as bad.
There's actually considerable research that shows as much as a third of patients have to stop treatment because of adverse effects and the emotional burden of undergoing treatment. There's a variety of ways to protect patients from this. One is to chronomodulate drugs. Another is aggressive nutritional support to protect the various side effects that that particular drug might cause. Every drug has a window when it's the most effective and least toxic. And we know that that window is substantial because it can improve the effectiveness of the drugs anywhere from 25% up to 400%. In addition to that, we know that it reduces toxicity anywhere from 20 to about 85%. And we worked with Reggie and with his wife, Deb, who was very instrumental in terms of his recovery. And within a few months, he was in good, he was in good enough shape that we were able to then give him the same drug back again. We gave it at a smaller dose. I gave it with some specific nutritional compounds that are researched to enhance the effectiveness of the drug.
Immediately, they readjusted the dosage. That was 1/5 of the normal dose. That worked out great. That worked out great because the symptoms, the side effects went away. My legs got back to normal. My feet got back to normal. I could tolerate it. I could eat as much as I wanted to. I still have side effects, but it's not as extreme as it was back then. I remember a milk thistle. It was one of the supplements. The milk thistle helped the Nexavar to work better.
After I was in the protocol for probably 5 or 6 years, I had a mental crash where I woke up one day and I told my wife after we went to lunch with our kids after church, and I remember telling her that I wasn't going to take another pill and I wasn't going to juice and I wasn't going to do any of this stuff anymore. I was done. And I called Dr. Isaac and said, I'm not taking another pill. I'm not juicing. I'm not doing anything anymore. And she said, that's fine. You go ahead and stop. She said, you can stop everything, but you can't stop the coffee enemas. So I kept doing the coffee enemas for about 6 weeks, and I didn't take any pills or do anything else. And So the next hair analysis, through the hair analysis, tell absolutely what I've been eating, where my vitamins are, where everything in my body is, where it's balanced or whether it's out of balance. Because I started at 31 and had been progressively going down, and I think I was down to about 19 at the time. I was up to about 23, I think.
I went to San Antonio to the breast cancer symposium for the first time in 1998. And amazingly, George Wang, Dr. Wang, comes up to me at the meeting and he said, your friend, my friend Helen, told him about me and he thinks he can help me. In somewhere between January and April, I got the 25th tumor on the chest wall, 14th on the chest wall, 25th overall. I just had it. So I called him and I said, I'm ready to roll.
Various ways in which things are accumulating inside of the body. And in Chinese medicine, we have some fairly aggressive herbs that help to clear, to mobilize, to digest, to attack or open space, right? And so when it comes to bearing on cancer, there is a class of herbs that are known to be particularly aggressive. And they can work directly on areas of deep stagnation, accumulation, these formations into tumors and things that are difficult to pierce. The second general category of herbs are what are generally referred to as tonifying herbs.
And Tibetan medicine generally catalyzes all the type of the disease for the 4 types. Among the 4 types, one is karmic cause disease. And cancer belongs to that karmic cause disease. But if you make a right diagnosis and right treatment, it's curable. That's why Tibetan medicine we use different methods of the treatment. We can cure cancer patients.
So the beauty of Chinese herbal medicine, and there are tonic herbs, which are like superfoods, really. They're really nutrient dense and they concentrate elements that food plants don't. And so the most famous is ginseng. And so we put things that are nourishing like that. We put in some of the medicinal Chinese mushrooms. Well-known one is reishi mushroom. And there are a lot of studies on these relative to cancer.
Went down to Chinatown. It was very interesting, shopping at a herbal store, buying the pot. I bought a beautiful porcelain pot. I had a gas stove back then in Manhattan. And I made the herbs, and it was extremely interesting to do. So here I have some Chinese herbs for sleep. The thing about Chinese herbs, there's a whole variety of them included, and you get them all at once. And each one of them protects you from having like an issue with any one. Because in conventional medicine, when you take a sleep medicine, there's issues. So here I have boiled some water, and I'm going to put the herbs into the water and let it simmer. And it needs to simmer, in this case, for about 20 minutes. When I used the herbs for cancer, they had to simmer for about 2 hours. But these herbs are more quickly cooked, and it's also a smaller portion. It used to be a big amount of herbs in the old days. They start to have this aroma, and the really healthful. I love the smell of Chinese herbs. I don't know. I love Chinese medicine in general. To me, the astounding thing about Chinese herbs is they have been in use for 6,000 years. That's extraordinary. So now that it's ready, of course, I'm going to let it cool because I don't want to burn my tongue. But after it cools, it's a delicious sleep aid. And that's really important, especially for people who are having trouble sleeping as we age, go into menopause, have chemo, treatment, anxiety, whatever the issues are that keep people awake. I really love Chinese herbs. I can't say anything negative about them. I think they're healthful, they're tasty, they smell good, and they're good for you. Good night, everybody.
Lowering the dose of the Nexavar was key to my recovery, I believe. I think within 6 months, the Black Center, You're Doing Good, they suggested I go to another treatment center to look at my liver to see if they could get rid of the tumor.
So the very first herbal drink that I took from him, I got hives everywhere on my entire body from head to toe, raised hives on my arms and legs, and I was panic-stricken. I mean, I had no idea what was happening. However, the hives went away in 3 days, and an astonishing result came out of it. My chemical sensitivity, the symptoms changed. Instead of getting this terrible pain in my head, dizziness, and a headache that could last for days, I started getting like and I wasn't choking. I just had a little extra mucus in my throat, and it would clear up, and I would feel okay. It was extraordinary. I got my life back. And I said to Dr. Wong afterwards, I feel like because I kept on my protocol and I added the herbs on top of that, that's why I had such a strong immune reaction. You know, my whole system just had a giant hiccup, and it threw off the bad part. It was amazing. It really changed my life, literally.
So I got back on the program, and I said, what am I doing? I'm just going to give myself cancer again and die. I called Dr. Isaac because I said, it's way up there again now. And she said, well, it'll come back real quick if you stay on the program. So I did, and it kept coming down. And the last hair analysis I did, it was a 12.
I had an MRI before I started because I wanted to prove something. I wanted to prove that this worked or didn't work. I had the MRI. I started the herbs, did them for months and months and months, and the prescription changed over time. I didn't get any more tumors, and I knew that, but I didn't feel cured, because I wasn't sure. At the 10th month, Dr. Wong said, you're done. So then I had another MRI. So I had an appointment with my breast surgeon on September 12, 2001. Everybody in the U.S. knows what that means. It was the day after 9/11. I lived in New York City. There were no taxis, no buses, no subways, no private cars. So I walked down there. She's not there yet. She lived in New Jersey. And she comes and she tells me, this MRI, we don't see any sign of disease. I'm going to give you the diagnosis of NDD, no discernible disease. So September 12th, 2001, I go outside on 15th Street, 7th Avenue. I can see the smoking ruins directly in front of me, and I started to cry. And I'm thinking, I'm sad, happy, sad, whatever. And a bunch of people come over, and they're all hugging me. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry, we're going to be fine. And in my head, I'm yelling, I'm alive, I'm alive, For the first time, I was absolutely secure that this was going to be okay. For the first time in all those years.
I was told that I had 12 months to live, 18 if I took chemo. I've been swallowing 6,000 pills for 90 days for 10 years. 3 or 4 years ago, they wanted me to have chemo. If you can imagine, a person is working, strong, doesn't feel bad. They wanted me to take chemo. The doctor said, you must be full of cancer. There's no way you could not have cancer with what you're doing. And I went and run his tests on me, couldn't find no cancer. They put this stuff in you, and cancer is supposed to attack it. And that's how they tell if you got cancer. Anyway, they couldn't find any cancer. The guy actually acted like he was disappointed that I didn't have any, he couldn't find any.
So over the years, he's had various scans, including a PET scan, and all of them have shown no evidence of cancer. So he has done remarkably well over the years. I think it's a real credit to him and his determination to follow through with what I gave him to do.
She's been a great doctor because I've only seen her one time, and it was 10 years ago. I've seen her one time, and then the rest of the time, if I have a question, I call her. She calls me back the same day and answers my question. She will change when I send in the hair analysis. If there's something that needs to be changed, she will let me know what it is and change it, and I do it.
They suggested I go to another treatment center to look at my liver to see if they could get rid of the tumor. And they couldn't find a tumor. And this was like within 6 months. There was no tumor to be found. So they just sent me back. They couldn't find anything.
There wasn't any cancer there for them to do anything with it. It was unbelievable. It was pretty amazing.
My wife and I, we celebrated. She wanted to get up and dance. And
I was diagnosed with breast cancer January 7th, 1993. I went through a lot, but I survived that.
Somehow, with her inner strength and her positive attitude and her discipline, she overcame stage 4 breast cancer without chemo and radiation.
I started the Annie Appleseed Project because everything that I did, I thought contributed to my health and well-being. I saw myself as getting healthier and stronger all along the way. Everything I did contributed. Our website, AnnieAppleseedProject.org, the idea of it was to give people something with information that they could rely on. It's evidence-based. We show the studies. They're small, but after a while, you have a preponderance of evidence, a lot of studies. We help people understand their options and to see in other people how well those options could work. And that's really important because it's scary. When I first started, I knew nothing and I just jumped in and did stuff. Did I know it was going to work? Absolutely not. But I tried a lot of things and some things worked.
She's really moved the dial. I've seen it. I've been to her conference. People come up to me and say, I would not be alive today if it wasn't for the Annie Appleseed Project. She does it for nothing. She doesn't take any money. All the money that she gets goes to cancer patients. She's remarkable and really, in a number of areas, influenced cancer treatment for the better of patients, and people recognize that.
So it's probably about $1,200 or $1,300 a month for my pills. It's very disheartening that it's not covered by insurance or anything. That is expensive. So we're going to try and keep money coming in to buy the supplements that I need to have. At the same token, I'm thankful that I can and I'm strong enough to do that. It's worthwhile. I recommend it to anybody that's suffering from pancreatic cancer. It sure beats going through all the pain and suffering with pancreatic cancer, that's for sure.
April of last year, I had this small little, like a little tiny cigar, soft tissue in my left groin. And my acupuncturist and I were talking about it. He said, probably swollen lymph node. So then I decided I'll get a biopsy. So in January of this year, I got a biopsy. Turns out to be the exact day, 26 years to the day, from my original breast cancer biopsy. Now I look at this diagnosis and it says follicular lymphoma. I look it up. It's slow-growing cancer. And it's in the lymph system. So I start thinking about this, and this is my opinion, not based on research because no one researches it. It's very little research. So I have lymphedema, stalled lymph system on the left side. When I had the 18 lymph nodes removed without my express or informed consent, it damaged my lymph system forever. I'm chemically sensitive, so chemicals impact me much more than everyone else. So I believe that the weak lymph system, the messed up system, and my problems with chemicals contributed to my getting follicular lymphoma. So now I'm going on to my next thing. And I have always more plans. I have 2 other things that I will try if the clinic in Mexico does not help me reduce this tumor. Because there's no limit to the things in the natural world that you can try. And I plan, I always have my next plan ready because I believe in that. So I'm up to, let's say I'm up to plan C now, but I've got them all the way up to H, and I'm raring to try whatever I need to do. And I know I can conquer this too.
She's very, very strong and very, very positive, and if anyone can get through it, she will get through it.
Right now, I'm taking about 5 to 7 supplements. I keep doing it because I know it's good for me, and I know I need it.
It isn't like we can just go out now and start eating red meat tomorrow or something like that. We're still going to keep cancer away from us as much as possible by doing all the right things, even still today.
I'm always going to strive. And right now, here's the thing. I'm alive right now. Everything's great. My energy is 100% normal. My enthusiasm is full. I have so much to give, so much to learn. I want to just keep on living. And in the moment, which is all we have, I'm alive. And it's all good.
My life, like I said, I love her every minute of every second of every day. I mean, she's my life partner. She's supportive. She's a remarkable, heroic woman. She's extremely principled. She's beautiful. I wake up in the morning, I see my wife. Everything's going to be okay. I love everything about my wife.
I'm thankful that every day I get to have another day with my wife and I get to live. And it's because of my wife and Dr. Isaacs that I'm even here. I eat good things instead of bad things. And that's why I'm 10 pounds less than I was when I was 17 years old. And stronger and healthier than I was when I was 17 years old, believe it or not. I'll be 77 in 2 months, less than 2 months now. And I'm working a full-time job. I can do 102 push-ups. I can curl 47 pounds about 50 times.
After my labs improved and no cancer was found, the doctor suggested that I get back on the transplant program.
He was initially scheduled to try to get a liver transplant, but they said he was too sick to do it. And as his scans cleared and everything else, they put him back onto, the liver list to get a transplant. But we learned just in August of 2019 that they took him off the list again because he's too well.
I got a letter from Loyola Transplant Program saying that we're going to take you off the transplant program because you don't need a transplant. Yeah, like I always thought. I always thought I don't need a transplant.
So really kind of a wonderful story of what is possible. And what I've learned, really from Reggie and this is that never say never. Even under what appears to be some of the worst conditions, there are miraculous turnarounds and, not to give up on patients too early.
No cancer. Total remission. We thank God for everything He's done for us.
We're going to continue exercising. We're going to continue bike riding. We go dancing, and we're going to keep on dancing.